Ladies and gentlemen, I want you to do me a favor. Do me a favor. In the comments section or in the super chat, so I can't do this without you, to my super chat, thank you. And to my moderators, thank you so very much, Eric and Luke, the best moderators in all of YouTube. I have the best chat and the best comment section in all of YouTube, and I'm so thankful and just appreciative. But in the super chat, I can't do this without you, or the comment section, tell me, isn't Chris Cuomo such a wonderful person? Don't you think he's a wonderful person who has educated society and the country on how detrimental Trump has been because of Trump's personality, even though he was never accused, Trump, of doing what Chris Cuomo was accused of doing just recently, well, in 2005, but in front of a woman's husband? Isn't Chris Cuomo and Mr. Lemon and everyone else, Maddow, all of these wonderful people, Chris Hayes, Jimmy Kimmel, Stephen Colbert, all of Hollywood Twitter, aren't these people needed in society to preach and pontificate? And don't we need all of these people to educate and give moral sermons on morality, since they're morally superior liberals? Don't we need them? Instead of going to church or synagogue or your place of worship, shouldn't we just listen to Chris Cuomo? I mean, his brother Andrew got an Emmy. They gave him an Emmy Award for daytime television. Isn't it good that we have today's televangelists to work out with fake weights? Even the world's strongest man couldn't do a tricep extension with 100 pounds. Obviously, it was fake weights. He's going to resign eventually because they want him out, just like they wanted his brother out. They want Chris Cuomo out. They want someone else to preach and pontificate and judge and condemn. Morally superior liberals who have derangement issues with Trump, what they do is the following. They need people like Chris Cuomo, who happen to be the most despicable human beings, to convince people at a fishing supply store, or a sporting goods store in Montana, the one liberal that one liberal in Montana, to go up to Tucker Carlson and say, "You're such a bad human being." But you better believe that same person, that same individual who went up to Tucker Carlson, would never have done that to Chris Cuomo, or to Anderson Cooper, or to Mr. Lemon, or anyone at MSNBC or CNN. Aren't these people so needed in society? Don't you think that we need more of those people? We need more Hollywood directors. We need more of them, not less. We need more to preach and pontificate and condemn and judge. We need more people at a fishing supply store in Montana to go up to Republican or conservative pundits saying, "You're the most horrible human being. Your misinformation has caused so many people to lose their lives." Meanwhile, the experts and authorities change their tune on everything weekly. But when they do so, it's warranted because, they should be trusted. Chris Cuomo, again, is accused. He was already on tape telling Michael Cohen that he doesn't even like his job and that he's basically acting. Then he was caught trying to help his brother get out of allegations. Now he's facing allegations. Pretty despicable, too, in front of the guy's husband. And then they say, Trump, he grabbed, it was a hot mic, and he's never been accused of that, and it wasn't a deposition. Meanwhile, Chris Cuomo, in front of the woman's husband, which is a bizarre situation. Because that you're 9 times out of 10 looking for a physical confrontation there if the husband sees. In front of the woman's husband does what Bill Clinton and all the good liberals, wonderful, wonderful liberals who should preach and pontificate, who are alleged to have done either similar or somewhat similar things. These allegations from Bill Clinton, from Anthony Weiner, the aptly named, Eric Schneiderman, the lieutenant governor in Virginia. We can go on forever. Every Hollywood producer. And they're the ones who are informing the country of how horrible Trump is as a human being. The hypocrisy, they are oblivious. Do you understand? They're oblivious. Billy in 4C, hello. Billy, thank you. Billy in 4C, hello. Thank you so very much for becoming a member. Thank you. Barry, am I right? That's a recipe for disaster. And I've never seen, this is the thing. Where do you grow up? I'm not just clapping because I'm excited. But mosquitoes everywhere. Where do you grow up? Where do you hang out? What world do you live in where you greet a married woman or any woman? I mean, that you're like, there's no, like, they're not dating, they're not, what kind of personality do you have where you do what he did and, like, you're working with the person? This is not something that's normal. It's normal for liberals to get away with that. I'd venture to say that conservatives, and I'm not conservative on every issue, I want the immigrants from Haiti and Afghanistan to have a pathway to citizenship immediately. I'm not liberal on everything. But I'm conservative on the Second Amendment, a whole bunch of things, and I think Trump is one of the better presidents, one of the great presidents we've had for a number of reasons. Single-handedly reversed U.S. foreign policy that the Lincoln Project and Biden and Bernie Sanders either voted for or approved. Bernie Sanders votes alongside the Lincoln Project. So does AOC. Which, this is the thing, AOC and the other, what they voted against was a defensive measure. They literally want innocent people to suffer. They voted against a defensive military missile program, defensive in nature. But anyway, that's another story. The left is full of the most immoral, warped, pseudo-morality. And what they do is pontificate and preach. They pontificate. Paul Bartlett, thank you. Thank you, Paul. Thank you so very much. I didn't see that. Paul, thank you. They pontificate and preach while at the same time exhibiting the most despicable behavior. This is not like a thing that happens usually, okay? Like, if you grew up in the 80s or 90s or any time before then, and you went to nightclubs and bars and you went out because there was no social media where you could just kind of, jump into this fantasy world, this cyber reality. You had to learn how to interact and communicate with men and women. And if you were trying to, you're trying to have a good time, you don't do those things. You never did those things. That was the behavior of somebody who thinks that he could get away with it. If you don't, that type of person would never do that to the woman who's married to somebody that will immediately retaliate. No offense to the woman's husband, but that Chris Cuomo doesn't act that way if he knows there's going to be a physical confrontation, because he's all talk. That's why he yells at the top of his lungs all the time and tries to bark like a little chihuahua, like a little Pomeranian. You don't have, that. This is the type of person who was filmed a couple years back saying it's an insult to your peoples, man. And that was never an insult. I've never heard that to be an insult before. And there are some words, yes, that are insulting. I've never heard that word to be an insult. And the reason it resonated, the reason he got bothered by it was because he is the brother who perhaps fits the description in that movie. Who knows? Or maybe he feels he is. I don't know. But there's a dynamic here that the left is completely ignoring. The type of behavior that Chris Cuomo exhibited is when men know there are no physical repercussions, then they react in that type of... Actually, nobody does. Generally, that doesn't really happen. That type of thing usually doesn't happen. But you're talking about a person who probably grew up with the definition of privilege that they harp on, with Biden and his son Hunter. I mean, look at the Hall of Shame. Look at it. Hunter Biden, Anthony Weiner, Eric Schneiderman, Chris Cuomo, Andrew Cuomo, the Lieutenant Governor of Virginia. I mean, look at the Democrats are the biggest deviants on the planet, and they get away with everything because media just covers for them. But missing from this is the first thing I thought of is okay, you at least yell, and if you don't want to go to jail that night, or if you don't care about going to jail and you have to represent for that moment, I'm not telling anybody what to do. I'm not advocating anything. What I'm saying is, in most places in the world, that is an instant there are physical repercussions if the woman is with her husband or a boyfriend or another man. It's an instant, and then what breaks loose. And he obviously didn't care about that, and he obviously would never have acted that way had he known that there would have been physical repercussions. Now, obviously, you shouldn't act that way, and generally, that type of thing doesn't happen. But again, you see, it's Andrew Cuomo didn't get kicked out because of... Andrew Cuomo didn't get kicked out of his office as New York governor because, exactly, Eric Swalwell too. Andrew Cuomo didn't get kicked out because of his behavior, which was despicable. He got kicked out because he's a political liability, because he put infected people into elderly care facilities and nursing homes. These people don't know how to govern, and they're drunk with power. And you have, just look, Bill Clinton gets away with everything. Anthony Weiner didn't, because he was sending pictures of his aptly named last name, okay, to people of all ages. Then you have Bill Clinton, Anthony Weiner, you have Hunter Biden, who you're talking about a person that, all of American media has covered for this man, just like they do for his father, mashed potato brains. So then then you look at the Lieutenant Governor of Virginia. I forgot his name, but he's doing things like, then you're talking about Eric Schneiderman, who's accused of playing Dungeons and Dragons in between the sheets. That's 5 right there. Then you're talking about not just one Hollywood producer that all of these wonderful liberals and even Madam Secretary hung out with. But then you're talking about a person who had, let's just say, ties to everybody from the British royal family to the Clintons and you're talking about a lifelong Democrat. He gave to Democrats in New York. Okay. So, the list is endless. And he's going to resign from CNN eventually, because this is not the only. This should have been known in 2005. The fact that it wasn't known in 2005 is a testament to how good Democrats and liberals are at covering up for people in power. They don't care about morality. They want to simply level condemnation, because you can do 2 things if you level judgment and condemnation. You can hide your own sins and focus on the sins of others. They do 2 things at once. They hide their own sins. Elliot Spitzer, though, didn't. That was a business transaction. So Elliot Spitzer, I can't put in the same league or category as Chris Cuomo. Granted, it wasn't good what he was doing, but in my mind, that's a completely different, he wasn't preying on anyone, from what I understand. That was more of like a business transaction, you could say, that he hid from the world or his family. But no, Elliot Spitzer is like a model citizen compared to Hunter Biden and Bill Clinton and Eric Schneiderman and all of these people. These people who, look, let's count. The Trump curse is real. The Trump curse is real. Okay, this is a genuine, I'm joking, but not really. Andrew McCabe, Peter Strzok, Lisa Page. Now you have Andrew Cuomo and Chris Cuomo, Michael Avenatti, Eric Schneiderman, Jussie Smollett. People in Hollywood that have kind of done themselves in by just going after Trump. Kevin Kleinsmith, that lawyer Sussman. I just named 12 right there. If you can name more, let me know. You go after Trump with everything you have, and, if you devote your life to trying to ruin someone, or if you try to harm somebody just because you think it'll give you a quick political points or political gain, it's going to come back to you. The people who pontificate and judge the most have the most to hide. They have the most to hide. Polycat, hello. You cannot judge, pontificate, condemn, You cannot pontificate, judge, and condemn, knowing very well that you engage in worse behavior. And you can look at Chris Cuomo and say, obviously, this person's personality, not only is he insecure, like picking fights with people when he got, you know what, and he wasn't even abiding by protocol, while his brother was like engaging in the most draconian policies that others have to deal with, just like the San Francisco mayor, just like the Emmys. They don't even believe their own policies. They tell the world to do this, they do another thing, and then they say, well, if you don't listen to us, you're ending people's lives. I mean, they're the biggest hypocrites on the planet. They're drunk with power. They're drunk with power. But you could see he's always picking fights and yelling at people. You want some? Yeah, you. Yeah, you want it? You want it? He like told somebody he was going to throw them down the stairs in one of the, like, he's like a short-tempered, egotistical CNN pundit that would interview his brother in the most nauseating manner. You remember that? Interviewed his brother, and oh my God, it was so repulsive and nauseating. And all the liberals watching were touching themselves in ecstasy. Ooh, America's governor. He wrote a book on leadership lessons. That's like Jeffrey Dahmer writing a cookbook. He wrote a book on leadership lessons. That's like Joe Biden becoming a speech coach. How do you write a book on leadership lessons when you single-handedly made, unfortunately, God bless the people of New York number one in every horrible statistical category pertaining to you know what? And New Jersey and New York are still at the top of the statistical categories. Per capita, everything. And when Jonathan Swan went after and tried to ambush Trump in that meeting or that interview, all Trump could have said is Phil Murphy and Andrew Cuomo, and then left. You could have simply said two names, and God bless the people of New Jersey and God bless the people of New York. I don't say this gleefully because, Democrats have presided over the worst outcomes. The highest unemployment rate are in Democratic-run states. This is a fact. Go look it up in the Bureau of Labor Statistics. Go look it up. The highest unemployment rates are Democratic-run states. This is a fact. 7.7% as of August of 2021. 7.7% Nevada. 7.5% unemployment California. 7.4% New York unemployment. 7.2% unemployment in New Mexico. 7.2% unemployment in New Jersey. 7.2% unemployment in Connecticut. 7.27% in Illinois, 7% in Hawaii, District of Columbia, 6.5%, Pennsylvania, 6.4%, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 highest unemployment rates. The 10 highest unemployment rates are in Democratic-run states. 6 of the top 10 highest per capita rates. 6 of the top 10 highest per capita rates are in Democratic-run states. So, you have the same, it's the same thing going on all the time. That was the other day. It might have changed recently, but you had that all throughout. New Jersey is still second in the country. And so they still have highest unemployment rates, the worst record when it comes to you know what, and they pontificate and preach none of what they have. These neuroses that they've imposed upon the entire country. And it's like, B! Here's a cold beer with your sandwich for lunch. Thank you. Keep on keeping on, HA. Thank you so very much. I didn't see that. Thank you, B. Thank you so very much, B. Greatly appreciated. To my super chat, thank you. I can't do this without you. Thank you. Thank you so very, very much, B. Paul Bartlett. Thank you. All they do, because this is the racket, okay? The majority of the Democratic Party, or the most vocal part, the most vocal constituents or voters, the ones with the greatest social media presence, or the intellectuals within the Democratic Party, quote unquote. We have the dumbest intellectuals of all time. But anyway, the intellectuals within the Democratic Party are generally atheists, which is fine. There's nothing wrong with being, it's fantastic if you're an atheist, but it's totally fine. If it works for you, great. Christopher Hitchens, I loved Christopher Hitchens, okay? Big inspiration to me. But he didn't replace God or religion with a belief in the state, which I think Gore Vidal said he did, or whatever. I forgot who it was. Noam Chomsky. But I don't think that was the case. These people replace God with CNN, MSNBC, Hollywood Twitter, social media, Twitter in general. Their God, the dogma that they utilize to judge others, their moral code stems from groupthink, where disliking Trump is like a spiritual endeavor. And instead of gaining spiritual sustenance from, a holy book or a religious leader, they gain spiritual sustenance from Chris Cuomo and Maddow and Hollywood Twitter and social media in general and Jimmy Kimmel. They think that the whole world revolves around their biases. They think that half the country is irrelevant. The 73 million people who voted for Trump are completely irrelevant, and they're the ones who are righteous and good and just. They're the ones who are morally superior when they engage in, it's obvious, they're in many cases the most morally inferior political side, but there you go. AOC's hilarious theatrical performance, sad, not just funny, but sad and pathetic, shows you that. Could have simply voted no, but voted present for some reason. Okay, if you believe in something, why vote present? This is like when the Democrats said, no, we can't vote on the Green New Deal legislation. Then they say climate change is an existential issue. It's like, don't start crying. This is the thing. To vote against the bill is absurd because it's just purely defensive military measure. You're talking about groups that are deemed as groups launching missiles into civilian areas deliberately to get casualties. Definitely a war crime. but it doesn't suit the Democratic Party, or it doesn't suit the left's warped moral standards, whatever those standards are, complete hypocrisy. But so the Iron Dome is a completely defensive, and it's not like that's the only country we give. Israel's only one of the countries we give foreign aid to. There's a whole list of countries. Okay? Left doesn't have a problem with that for some reason. But here you have AOC crying. It's like, well, why are you crying? Why didn't you just vote no instead of present? Because Pelosi told you not to? B, thank you. I mean, at least, you know what? Honestly, you know what the good thing about the other squad people are, representatives are? The good thing is that at least they represent. I disagree with them vehemently, but at least they represent. Not like AOC, who doesn't represent at all. I mean, if you're on the left and you think this congresswoman is legitimate or genuine, it's like you also think that Bernie Sanders wasn't cheated. So there's no hope there. Represent in life. Just represent. When people were writing hit pieces on me, it's like I didn't initially. I have to tell you, I cared initially. It's like why is this happening? Then quickly I realized, these are the basically slimiest people on the planet who don't like me. Yes. Oh, the slimiest people on the planet don't like me. Oh, okay, so I'm doing something right. Oh, okay. The same people who think that Bill Clinton and Chris Cuomo and Andrew Cuomo and, Anthony Weiner and all these wonderful people, these wonderful morally superior liberals. Andrew Cuomo getting an Emmy. That should be the first thing you think of when you think of New York politics. And when you think of Democratic Party politics, Andrew Cuomo got an Emmy, and he had a New York Times bestseller, I think, a bestseller on leadership lessons. Why would I want to read a book from the captain of the Exxon Valdez or the Titanic on sailing? Does that make any sense at all? Why would I want to do that? By the way, couple really wonderful channels that I found. This man is amazing. He's awesome. He's very intelligent, but also hilarious too. He has a fantastic personality, and he's not necessarily a Trump supporter, but a lot of what he says resonates with me. And his name is Gerald Celente. He's absolutely fantastic. You should subscribe to his channel. He's absolutely fantastic. He's actually an economist, a future trend. He predicts trends. He has a Trends Journal publication. Gerald Celente. He's awesome. Really awesome. And he has a whole bunch of wonderful. He has an amazing segment with Judge Napolitano. But he has some fantastic viewpoints, and the manner in which he communicates them is just hilarious, awesome, very intelligent, and he has a great personality. His name is Gerald Celente. Subscribe to his channel. He has 147 subs. He should have 1 million, 2 million subs. So he's fantastic. This gentleman is fantastic. And like I always say, subscribe to Young Rippa 59 as well. This man is amazing. Young Rippa 59. He deserves 1 million, 2 million, 3 million subs. And Papa Duck. Papa Duck is awesome. Also deserves 2, 3 million subs. He's fantastic. So those are 3 channels that I like to watch nowadays, in addition to other channels as well. Obviously, Sticks X and Hammer, Tim Pool, HB, love HB, Hard B, just because of the algorithm. Liberal Hive Mind is fantastic. Brandon Tatum, Anthony Brian Logan, There's a bunch. Kevin's Corner. Fantastic. Kevin's Corner is awesome. There's a bunch. There's a bunch of channels. Channels on the left I still watch sometimes to see what's going on. I'm not going to name them because if I say something good about anybody on the left, oh, AJ Goodman likes you. But anyway, you got to look at the false prophets. You got to look at the false prophets and the televangelists of our generation. The Chris Cuomo, Maddow, Mr. Lemon. All of these, they're just dripping with narcissism. The overt, unapologetic narcissism, condemnation and judgment. They're just dripping and oozing with this despicable, nefarious, warped, twisted, distorted morality. Every time they point one finger at Trump, the rest of their fingers point back at them. And you're talking about hypocrites. They don't care about morality. They want to hide their own indiscretions and sins and criminal acts and misdeeds. And they want to throw as many stones as possible just because their glass houses are so fragile and, easily destroyed that the way they work is the best defense is a good offense. So that's the way they work. Indy Wood! Papa Duck, thanks for recommending him a few weeks ago. He's going to save a lot of people. Yes. Anomalies great too. Yes. Anomalies great also. Absolutely. Indy Wood, yes. Papa Duck is fantastic. Thank you, Indy. Thank you so very much, as always. Indy Wood, thank you. Two brain cells. Isn't he fantastic? Papa Duck is awesome. Indy. Young Ripper 59, amazing. Check out also Gerald Celente. Indy Wood, Gerald Celente. He's so fantastic. He's awesome. And he has passion and energy and enthusiasm. I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. I love energy and enthusiasm and passion and intellect and intelligence. And he doesn't take you know what from anybody. I love it. Indy, thank you so very much. Tig! Venture, yo, from your friends here in Appleton, Wisconsin. Thank you, Tig. Thank you so very much. Thank you as always, Tig. Thank you as always. Thank you. Greatly, greatly, greatly appreciate. I hope all is well. What is the weather now in Appleton? It's probably cold now. Tig, thank you so very much. As always, Colleen Welch. Thank you, Colleen. Welcome to most of the day. Thank you for becoming a member. Colleen Welch, thank you. Tig, thank you so much. As always, greatly, greatly appreciated. Greatly appreciated. I mean, you got to look, and this is what happens when the Washington Post, when the New York Times and the Washington Post go after you, when they don't protect you anymore. See, if Trump was still in office, they wouldn't go after Chris Cuomo. They're going after Chris Cuomo because he's a political liability. Because CNN doesn't want him there anymore. Larry! If you say how much you respect, I respect Jimmy Dore. Yes, Jimmy Dore is fantastic. I respect him a great deal. I disagree with him on certain things, but I think he's fantastic. I always have thought I've always believed that he is genuine, honest. That's why the left doesn't like him, because he's genuine and honest. He doesn't vote Democrat. He would vote Democrat. JG, hello, I agree. JG, hello. Larry, If you say how much you respect Jimmy Dore, you're both in hot water, each with a different style. We've loved Gerald Celente for years. Yes, Larry. I just had the pleasure of watching Gerald Celente. He's just so fantastic. He's just so awesome. And when he gets into like his stream of consciousness where he says, hey, you know what, I'm not going to take this anymore, it is a sight to behold. It's fantastic. Larry, thank you so much. Mado, hello. I hope I'm pronouncing your name correctly. Mado, thank you so very, very much. Or Mado, thank you. Thank you. Thank you so very, very much. Greatly, greatly appreciated. Mado, thank you so very, very much. Thank you so very much. Greatly appreciated. To my super chat, thank you. I can't do this without you. Chris Cuomo, a person like Chris Cuomo, they do things. The reason that they act a certain way is because they think they could get away with it. That's why they act a certain way. That's why they act in the way they do. Because they think that they can get away. When you think you can, and this is something the left doesn't understand. The left is like, okay, we're starting a movement, and this is bad, and you need to know it's bad. It's like, no, that's not only. There needs to be immediate repercussions for anyone, especially a man like Andrew or Chris Cuomo. You need to have immediate, theoretically, I'm not saying that anyone, God forbid, should do anything. I'm saying theoretically. Theoretically. Not saying anything that anybody should do. When a person who allegedly has the thought process of a Chris Cuomo, if they know that they're going to get repercussions from another man right then and there, they don't act that way. Almost always they don't act that way. Unless they want to have a situation. That's just the way life works. And you could see when Chris Cuomo starts yelling at everybody, that's how he understands that dynamic. Because he wants to portray that image. The problem is, when you take liberties like that, if you're surrounded by, or if you're doing that to people who will immediately respond or retaliate, it won't be a good time for you. So, you spend every single day of your life, and thank you so very much, Meadow, thank you. Rod Hurd, thank you. Love your enthusiasm in the stream. Thank you so very much, Rod. Greatly, greatly, greatly appreciated, Rod. Thank you. Thank you so very, very much. I can't do this without you, ladies and gentlemen, and I do appreciate your support. Rod, thank you so much. Thank you, sir. Rod Hurd, thank you. Greatly, greatly appreciated. Thank you. Rod, Meadow, everybody here. The mentality on the left, because I was on the left my whole life. I understand the mentality. The mentality is public relations, shaming, condemning, judging, opposing. They think this works. It doesn't work. Because half the country ignores their condemnation and shaming and judgment and pontificating, and their opinion or vehement viewpoint that they truly believe with all their heart, except when it comes to actually judging themselves, that's not enough to protect people. Vulnerable people are protected when predators know that they will immediately be dealt with. Theoretically. I'm not talking about, God forbid, I'm not saying anyone should do anything anywhere. I'm saying the mentality is, if Chris Cuomo did what he did, he wouldn't have done what he did if he knew there would be repercussions. The mentality on the left is all public relations. And they pay, exactly, they just pay a lot of money. And it's public relations. And Rod, thank you again. Greatly appreciated, Rod. Thank you. I can't do this without the super chat, and I do appreciate your support greatly. What they tried to do with Trump is they looked at Trump and they said, we don't like his personality. So we're going to do two things at once. We're going to protect the deviants within the Democratic Party, while at the same time, and part of the protection is leveling every accusation and pontificating and judging and expressing as much outrage as possible about what could have happened, or a hot mic. Like, the hot mic is part of their souls. He said, grab him. He said, grab him. It was a hot mic where he was joking around. Granted, it was the most bizarre thing I've ever heard in my life, but he's never been accused of that specific act, and he wasn't at deposition, and he could have been making it up. And it was the whole thing was not meant as be taken seriously. Yet, when you have Andrew Cuomo or Chris Cuomo or the Lieutenant Governor of Virginia or Eric Schneiderman or Anthony Weiner or Hunter Biden or Bill Clinton, they sweep that under the rug because they don't care about if they judged themselves and if they demanded repercussions. If they judged themselves and demanded repercussions immediately for their behavior, Rob, hello, then I would take them seriously. But you see this all the time. Rod Hurd, thank you again, Rod. Greatly appreciated. Thank you. They don't do they don't demand repercussions when they're caught. And that's a huge issue. First of all, the fact this is coming out now, I'm not saying the timing is deliberate, but CNN doesn't want the man there. It's not like, this isn't rocket science. CNN doesn't want the man, so it's like 1,000 cuts. Just like Andrew Cuomo, we knew of his behavior for a long time. The real reason he was kicked out of office is because he's a political liability, because if they did any investigation, that's what they do with Trump. They investigate so they're not investigated. Because if they were actually investigated and you had media turn on them and they didn't have control of institutions like the Bureau, almost certainly, like the intel agencies, or at least the chiefs within the intel agencies, because everyone worships media. So it's not like they really care about the Democratic Party, but that's where media is at right now. Media was embracing the rear end of the Bush administration 20 years ago, so the pendulum has swung. But when you have media and you have the investigators, and that's why the Durham probe is so great. I mean, people say, oh, well, you know what? These are small fries. And it's like, it's going to keep growing. There will be more indictments in the Durham probe. But there's a January investigation. There's an investigation for Trump's taxes. There's an investigation of his phone call in Georgia. There's an investigation of it. All they want to do is investigate so they're not investigated. All they want to do is investigate so they're not investigated. That's all they want to do. That's how they are able to, because the thing is, like, think about when a morally superior, wonderful liberal Democrat wakes up in the morning, and I know the mentality. He looks in the mirror and says, I am so much more rational, moral than Neanderthal Republicans. And I'm so much more interested in justice and truth. And for this reason, I can condemn and judge and shame. Notice how they're never worried about bullying a conservative. You can look at Nicholas Sandmann, what they did to this young man. You could look at what they tried to do to Nicki Minaj. When they say elevate voices or stop bullying or stop, the Trump's, mean tweets, you couldn't find more vile and vicious and vindictive and malicious people than on the left. When I was on the left, I got a threat on my life. Then I went to the police, and the police said, yeah, go in Second Amendment, arm yourself, and I did. It wasn't anyone who was on the right or a conservative that went after me. It was people on the left, and then one person, and then I said, okay, I'm just going to arm myself, because I was told to by the police, literally told to. And I filed a police report on the actual Twitter profile. So, it's like, the way they work is they don't believe when they say they want to stop bullying or when they say they want to bring civility back. They don't want to do any of those things. Look at Jimmy Kimmel. Who is he speaking to? Like, does he not care? Obviously, he doesn't care that half the country, that he's alienating half. You can't even, if you voted for Trump, not that there's a million other choice. Like, you can do a million other things than listening to late night, but you can't even enjoy late night. Like, imagine Johnny Carson for decades entertained all of America. That's why we miss him, and everyone loves Johnny Carson. He'll be remembered forever. You think that people are going to look back 20, 30 years from now and say, Jimmy Kimmel, Stephen Colbert, he was so funny and great. It's like, if you're a Democrat, yes. Or if you care about Democratic politics, yes. The average person would be like, okay, there was the same late night host, but just 5 or 6 of them. Jimmy Kimmel, Jimmy Fallon, Stephen Colbert, John Oliver, Trevor Noah, same political comedian. You had Lenny Bruce, Mort Saul, you had George Carlin. You had a lot of, and they might have been liberal, but today they'd be viewed as conservative on a lot of things. George Carlin did a whole thing on euphemisms. Okay, that the left utilized. Okay, Christopher Hitchens would be viewed as a far-right writer and author nowadays. That's how warped and twisted the left has become. They don't care about values or principles or ideals. Because when they say that Trump is a demagogue, they're the ones who were the xenophobes who blamed Russia for 4 or 5 years. Well, how could you blame Russia? Nico Hammer, hello. Hi, H.A. Love from Australia. Thank you, Nico. Thank you. Thank you so very, very much. Thank you, Nico. Thank you. Rod, thank you very much again. Rod Hurd, thank you so very much again. I can't do this without you, ladies and gentlemen, so I do appreciate the super chat. Thank you so very much. Nico, thank you again. God bless the people of Australia. What on earth is taking place? My God. But that's what happens when you have... Oh, and Scott Morrison was accused of Hypocrisy for traveling and visiting his family when other Australians couldn't. So he flies to Sydney to visit family, but that's how they roll. It's in your face. Do you understand? It's like a dunk in your face. We have it same thing, Emmys, in your face. Do as we say, not as we do. In your face. If you're a Hollywood celebrity and you're a millionaire, or you're a politician, and the worst that takes place is that there'll be a news report of your hypocrisy, or President Obama and his birthday. You can get away with anything because you have the money, you have the media support, and you have enough people, half the population, who will forgive you because Trump is worse. I keep on saying, in their minds, I keep on saying, and I know that I lose like 100 viewers right away when I go on my little tangent, but I love it. You could have a comet You could have Halley's Comet redirected towards Earth, where it's going to collide with our planet and end life as we know it. Halley's Comet could be like 10 minutes away from colliding with the planet. You could have simultaneously ICBMs from nuclear countries that Biden has, France maybe, is like, oh yeah, enjoy this present. Yeah, you don't like you stole a submarine deal with your Aussies. Payback is a you know what. You can have Halley's Comet descending towards Earth while ICBMs are coming down from the heavens, about to make everything glow, while a bunch of people living on the streets jump on your car and then go to the bathroom and have the check engine light turn on because you need an oil change, or you popped your tire, so the tire light goes on. And getting a text from the credit card company saying you're late on your payment. And you could have all of this happening. And if you're in the car with a liberal Democrat, the liberal Democrat will turn to you and say, at least Trump isn't president. At least he's not tweeting. I'm ready. I'm ready to go. I've had a good life. I'm happy now. Nothing can take away the happiness that I have because Trump is not president. Not the ICBMs, not Halley's Comet, not the check engine light. Nothing. They don't care. And there's going to be a stock market crash. Don't get me started on that. Sean Bonilla! That's right. If you're not a Trump supporter, then you're not punk rock. Keep up the great work. Exactly, Sean. Exactly. J-Spot, hello. Exactly. My music teacher guy. Hello. Sean Bonilla. Thank you, Rod. Sean Bonilla, thank you so very, very much. Thank you, Sean Bonilla. Thank you. Sean Bonilla, thank you. Just really quickly, Sean, do you know how amazing a great one of the great baseball players, Bobby Bonilla, in the 90s. He gets paid he has a brilliant contract. Like, he was brilliant in terms of signing a contract. He was so smart. In the 90s, he was traded to the Mets, or he signed by the Mets after the Pirates. And they said, okay, we're not going to pay. We're going to pay you every year, but the majority of your contract will actually pay you more money. But starting like, what was it, 10 years after his retirement, he gets $1 million. He gets over $1 million, about $1,200,000 a year every year until 2035. How amazing is that? Sean Bonilla, how amazing is that? The payments began in 2004. No. He got $500,000 for 25 years. So you got these deferred payments. How amazing is that? Bobby Bonilla has to be the smartest ball player of all time. In 2000, the Mets agreed to buy the remaining $5.9 million on Bonilla's contract. However, instead of paying Bonilla $5.9 million at the time, the Mets agreed to make annual payments of nearly $1.2 million for 25 years, starting July 1st, 2011. I'm sorry. So 2011, but 2004, the $500,000 a year payment, deferred payments came from the Orioles. So how amazing is that, I think, from what I'm reading here? The Mets agreed to make annual payments of nearly $1.2 million for 25 years starting July 1st, 2011, including a negotiated 8% interest. Wow. At the time, the Mets ownership was invested in a Bernie Madoff account that promised double-digit returns. This is like when you always say, trust the experts. Trust the experts. How amazing is that? Sean Bonilla, thank you. Thank you very much, Sean. And I agree with that. The punk rock really is, I mean, you look and it's like, Rod, I didn't see that. Rod, thank you so very much. Rod, thank you. My goodness. I did not see that. Rod Heard, thank you so very much. My goodness. I can't do it without the super chat. So thank you so very much, Rod. Greatly appreciated. Thank you so much, Rod. I was reading the Bobby Bonilla contract because when Sean was so kind, he reminded me of Bobby Bonilla. Rod, thank you so very much. Rod Heard, thank you. I can't thank you enough, Rod. Greatly appreciated. Now, I was just reading. I didn't see your super chat. So the Mets agreed to make annual payments of nearly $1.2 million for 25 years starting July 1st, 2011. What a smart, amazing thing. Rod, thank you so very, very much. I can't thank you enough. Thank you, Rod. J-Spot, thank you. Thank you, J-Spot, thank you. You look, ladies and gentlemen, and Rod, thank you again. Greatly appreciated. When you pontificate and judge and condemn, I never judged or condemned Hillary Clinton ever I never made a moral judgment of either Clinton. Oh, that's the one thing you ever did good in your life. That's the one thing that you ever did good in your miserable life, H.A. Batman. Rod, thank you again so much. Thank you. I didn't make a judgment of Hillary Clinton's private servers with top secret intelligence on them. I wrote 3 books on Amazon. You could see them. But her top secret emails, but her deleted emails, and debunking the Trump-Russia myth. And I have my 2 fantasy novels, Logic of Demons and Breaking the Devil's Heart. You can see that on my website, hagoodman.com, along with my writing in The Hill, The Huffington Post, Salon, The Jerusalem Post, The Federalist, other publications. And you can see my debates there. But I never made a Rod, and everybody here, thank you again, Rod. Ian, I didn't see Ian. Why am I not seeing these? Ian, I didn't see this. What's wrong with my thing? Ian, thank you, Ian. As always, Ian. It's classic projection lefty playbook like my friend would do in Eric Swalwell in class and blame it on poor Robbie. Robbie Gloss. Gross Robbie, that's the lefty way to do the crime and blame Robbie. Poor Robbie. Oh man. My friend Martin. But see, then the issue is like, well, how do you really know whoever smelt it dealt it? Which is, I think, what Voltaire said. It was either Voltaire or Rousseau. See, when Eric Swalwell, that was really Chris Matthews. Ian, did you know that? The whole Eric Swalwell thing, that was really Chris Matthews that did the deed. Ian Moyer's classmate lefty player like my friend. Yes. Ian. J-Spot! It's been my honor to support you. It should keep going for as long as you can keep the faith. Thank you, J-Spot. J-Spot 51. Your words of support and your kind words is always appreciated. Thank you so very, very much, J-Spot 51. Thank you. Also, you know what? I have a really, really wonderful Rod, Ian, J-Spot, everybody here, Sean, everybody here. Eric, Luke, I don't just say this because I'm trying to be nice. I have, like, the best comment section or one of the best comment or chat, and Eric and Luke help so much, but it's like, go look at other people's comment section. A lot of times, especially like the $20 million venture capital people, you will see so much discord and like back and forth and angry, like negative vibes on the comments. I have like the best comment section. Anybody tries to, make some kind of negative statement, everybody represents immediately. I mean, it's pretty awesome. It's pretty awesome. And so I think the great thing also is that I started out on the left, and then I did my own thing, supporting President Trump, realizing that, and so a lot of people on the left, sometimes it's even probably a guilty pleasure. They would probably watch this channel and don't tell anybody you're watching that nutcase. H.A. Badman, the nutcase. The absolute insane nutcase. But it's kind of enjoyable just to see, because he's so lame. There's probably people who on the left still watch from time to time. The whole thing, look, look, if you can't, look, God bless AOC. If you can't tell that we're looking at a theatrical performance, I actually like the fact that she voted president. It's like better, like, I think that to oppose a defensive measure against a certain groups that are deliberately trying to end the lives of civilians, like deliberately trying to commit war crimes. You can't just launch missiles into civilian areas just because you want to. They say, well, the country does this. Like, well, they don't do it just deliberately to get civilians. The other side deliberately does. Deliberately. It's like that's what there is no like military logic behind it. It's just they don't know where it's going. If it goes, so that's what the Iron Dome is about. And then they vote against it. And then it's just like, why don't you just represent? Just represent. What's the worst that could happen? What's the worst? And then they say, oh, well, she might go up against Schumer. Okay. Schumer is like mashed potato brains Biden. These people are party bosses. These are the Democratic Party, I thought, because I was so naive 6, 7 years ago, 5 years ago, I thought was based on at least the primaries, meritocracy. That is the most absurd notion. What a naive fool I was. So, obviously, even if more people like AOC, or even if AOC is, would be a better senator, gee, who do you think is going to win? Schumer or Gillibrand or AOC? Andrew Cuomo defeated Cynthia Nixon. So why would AOC think that she could become governor or senator of New York? Because the Democratic Party is what has made her. The Democratic Party will, if you've sold your soul to the devil, what good is $1 billion? What good is all the power in the world when, you could, when he comes to pay up, it's game over, and you're going to suffer more than any of the riches that you thought you acquired, more than the happiness you thought that they would give you. So it's like the Democratic Party, when you sell your soul, they collect. They come to collect. And when they collect, it's no good. It's no good for you. So that's why likely she voted present. What I don't understand, though, is like, why, if you're on the left, what do I care about it with the left? It's like, I'm not even on the left. Thank God. Thank God. The best thing I ever did in my life was leave. Oh, my God. It was so horrible. Your Medicare for All plan isn't as good as my Medicare for All plan. It's like basically like playing Dungeons and Dragons and saying, no, my magic user is more powerful than your wizard or magic user. No, my druid is more no, this spell is, you're talking about things that are fantasy. You roll the dice. This is all fantasy. No, the Green New Deal legislation my idea of the Green New Deal. What does it matter? It's not going to be voted for anyway. They're not going to vote for it anyway. It's a racket to get left-leaning people to vote Democrat. God, how hard is that to understand? And you get people angry. Your Medicare for All plan isn't as good as my Medicare for All plan. You don't even know what you're talking about. Don't talk to me. You're a Trumper. You're a Trumper, aren't you? No, you're a Trumper. I get it. I'm getting H.A. Goodman vibes here. You're probably going to be a Make America Great Again. Just like Batman. Or Jimmy Dore. You're a Trumper, aren't you? I'm not a Trumper. My Medicare for All plan is better than yours. You're a Trumper. You like Trump. I never said that. I'm not voting for Trump. You imbecile. Are you voting Democrat? No. Well, then you're a Trumper. Everybody. Bob's a Trumper. Tell everybody on Facebook and Twitter. Don't be his friend anymore. Excommunicate him. Excommunicate him. That's the way it works. Bob it became a Trumper. So that's how they roll. That's how they roll. It's groupthink condemnation. I realize this, that when you tailor, this is why the opinions of the majority of left-leaning pundits are pretty much worthless. People like Jimmy Dore are genuine and honest, and so they tell the truth, and he'll vote Democrat again if it's Tulsi Gabbard or if it's somebody that he likes. But the majority of left-leaning pundits, what they'll say is, vote blue no matter who. Vote blue no matter who. This means no matter what happens from November 4 years earlier or November 4 years from now, so from election day to the next one 4 years later, every single opinion, thought, analysis, all the viewpoints, it doesn't matter if it's about climate change or fossil fuel lobbyists or supremacists or privilege, or it doesn't matter. Look what they're doing now to the same groups that they championed. It's vote blue no matter who. That is a racket. They are engaged in a racket. It's a racket. That means that if your opinion and viewpoint, there are two ways to present. There are two ways to present a viewpoint. One is a viewpoint motivated, or the two ways that a viewpoint or an opinion is formed. One is because you care about the truth, so you're willing to not vote for your political party if you don't feel that your political party is the best thing for the country. That you're motivated by truth. I was motivated by truth. You could say whatever you like, Bernie Sanders, and then you went to Trump, and then you're not real. No, that actually is genuine. The grift is the opposite. That voting only blue. That's the grifters. Those are the grifters who vote Democrat no matter what. And you see, it's like you get more loyalty and compassion if you put like scorpions and tarantulas and centipedes in one little box. It's like there's more unity there than on the left. But if your viewpoint is only fueled by the belief that no matter what, you have to prop up the Democratic Party. So no matter what, Bernie Sanders could be cheated, the Lincoln Project could be voting Democrat, no matter what, Bill Clinton, Chris Cuomo, Andrew Cuomo, no matter what, you're always going to vote Democrat. Your opinions are meaningless. Your pontificating judgment, condemnation, meaningless. Why? Because you're always going to tailor your viewpoint or your opinion or your belief to whatever benefits a political party that cares nothing about you or your viewers. You could take the top 6 or 7 liberal YouTubers with over 1 million subs. They do not deviate from their core message ever. Every election, they will say vote Democrat no matter what. The difference between a communist or a socialist that votes Democrat and a Lincoln Project former Bush official or advisor that votes Democrat there is no difference. They're the same people. They always vote Democrat. What's the point of caring about Karl Marx and communism and socialism, and if you're always going to vote blue no matter who? You're not a communist. You're not a socialist. You're not even a democratic socialist. You're just a Democrat. What is the point? What is this, like, nonsense? You might as well be talking about Dungeons and Dragons and like how the fact that you were like, a high level magic user or whatever. The same thing. Box of Snakes 24. Florida man bear hello. What's the point? But if you look at the world from, I'm not a Republican, I'm not a Democrat. If Trump is not the nominee, if DeSantis is not the nominee, and if it's Jeb Bush, I'm not voting Republican. If the equivalent of Jeb Bush is, Joe Biden, they're always going to say, well, it's still the lesser of two evils. Like, no, you can actually form a third party and force the Democratic Party to adopt your left-leaning policies. It's so easy. It's so easy. But they don't want to do that because they'll lose friends. They care about the dinner parties. They care about the Facebook groups. They care about the condemnation of friends. That's like, Sean Bonilla, you're 100% right. Punk rock is voting Trump. Punk rock, I don't understand this. Like, you have a lot of like punk rockers. You have like the hardcore old school ones like Johnny Rotten. Okay, one of the greats in the Pistols. Jean-Louis! Leftists love to tell me their party has changed from the authoritarian days. Then I get angry when I don't believe it. Exactly. Jean-Louis, exactly. But you have John Lydon of the Pistols, okay, one of the greatest the greatest punk rockers of all time, supports Trump. Okay. Then you had musicians saying, how could he do this? That's the whole point of punk rock. To be an individual. My God. You think that John Lydon cares if any other musician votes Democrat? He doesn't care. It's the Democratic loyalists within the music industry who care what John Lydon does. It's the people who are obsessed with what you do with your life who vote Democrat. People who vote Trump, they don't care what you do with your life. I don't care. You think I would care? That's why, I lost friends over voting for Trump because I realized, they changed. Not me. I wouldn't put politics over friendship, but they watch CNN and they read the New York Times. They think it's completely objective and unbiased. They're like, oh, well, it must be true. James Clapper and James Comey, and these are all good people. These are definitely, people without a political motive. They don't know enough about politics because they just got into politics last year or 2 years ago. So they read the New York Times or the Washington Post and say, oh, well, this is the same paper as it was in 1985. It's like, no, all those journalists would have been considered far right now. The left has eaten up any semblance of normality and created this distorted world where people could get lose their jobs from a tweet 10 years back. So, but I mean, you even have you have certain musical icons in every genre, punk, every genre. They're like, oh, Trump is so bad. It's like, well, why do you think Trump is bad? Oh, he stands for so many horrible things. Well, do you think maybe that's propaganda leveled against him? You think that this is a man who got a greater percentage of the African American, Asian American, Hispanic American, Latino vote than he did 4 years prior. He allocated more funding, Trump, to historically black colleges and universities than any president ever. He got a greater percentage of the non-white vote than any Republican in 60 years. And then the rebuttal is, well, Bush did better. It's like, okay, well, Bush didn't have 95% negative media coverage. Jean-Louis, thank you. Jean-Louis, thank you. And it's like, did Trump push the envelope? Yeah, he did push the envelope. He didn't have to say certain things. I agree with that. I agree he didn't have to say certain things. Some of the things he said, he shouldn't have said, because they were wrong to say. Generally, though, when he was defending himself, it was pretty good. He fell into a social media trap on Twitter. Democrats don't derive political momentum from policies because they don't even care. They don't even believe. You think Democratic voters even know what the infrastructure bill is about? They don't care. They just hear shovel ready and climate change, and they begin salivating. They get a Pavlovian response to certain words like climate change. They don't even. John Kerry himself. Yes, climate change is a very important issue. But John Kerry himself said we could go to zero carbon, us and China, it still wouldn't make a dent. John Kerry said this, not me. So, how on earth is the infrastructure bill? And we're heading towards a financial collapse. And I say this, a stock market crash channel will have a segment later tonight. I do one almost every day. Today I missed a day, but subscribe, ladies and gentlemen, to the Stock Market Crash channel. And I say this, Rod, everybody here, Rod, you've been so generous. Thank you so very much. Everybody here has been so generous. Rod, thank you again. But I say this while I'm saying, hey, I can't do my segments without the super chat, but open up a savings account, or in your existing savings account, save every month. We are all going to need savings because there's going to be a tremendous stock market crash. And that's why I named my channel the Stock Market Crash Channel. And it's not funny, but it is kind of funny. But subscribe to the Stock Market Crash Channel. And the link is right here. I'll put the link below. I can't tell you enough, so here it is. I can't tell you enough that we had jobless claims increase. We had jobless claims increase with a labor shortage. We have a supply chain shortage with bottleneck issues, with cargo ships just anchored outside of ports. We have 1 out of every $5 through quantitative easing of the Federal Reserve essentially pumping money into the economy through the purchase of government bonds and other debt. 1 out of every $5 was created from this. We have inflation, runaway inflation. The Fed Chairman Jerome Powell says, oh, well, we're going to taper, which is pull back, cut back on the quantitative easing next year. Why? Well, because jobless claims are high. We still have high unemployment and high inflation, and if we do that, the market will crash. So we're going to wait to taper next year so the market could crash next year. It's like, okay. Then he says, oh, we're going to start our own digital currency, which is like Facebook, Twitter, and the Federal Reserve are starting cryptocurrencies. So they want to destroy Bitcoin. I mean, this is so obvious. I don't understand. Like, I respect the people who started Bitcoin and digital currencies. I watch them on their, I don't have Twitter, but I watch what they say on Twitter, see their podcasts, and it's like, I respect the thought process and the philosophy behind it. But it's going to crash. And I've been saying that on the Stock Market Crash channel also. They're going after Bitcoin. They want to destroy Bitcoin. They want to destroy it. Okay? Facebook and Twitter and the Federal Reserve and the Biden administration, they want to destroy it. It's right there. The writing's on the wall. The writing's on the wall. But everything is going to crash. Stocks, the Dow, NASDAQ, S&P, Bitcoin. The bond market will probably be hit. The housing bubble there's probably a housing bubble now. Lumber is at an all-time high. Aluminum is at an all-time high. Commodities are at an all-time high. The consumer price index, the producer price index, the Baltic Dry Shipping Index, the shipping index that shows how costly it is to move goods, to ship goods from China to the U.S. and around the world. That's at a high. Those are all at highs not seen since 2008. Consumer confidence is at a low, according to the University of Michigan, not seen since 2008. So, what is propping up the stock market? Well, the Federal Reserve and stimulus payments and interest rates being at zero. The interest rates will eventually have to go up, and then what happens to bond prices? There will be a sell-off. There is the margin for error is razor thin, and these traders don't care because the madness doesn't affect the people. Well, the madness is okay to them as long as they're making money. And the ones who sell the fastest, who get out the fastest, so either the day before, a couple days before the market crash, or the day of the market crash, they're able to kind of abandon ship. When the market crashes, it's going to be devastating for people who have investment accounts, a lot of very awesome, good, idealistic, good, noble people who invest in Bitcoin. Their investments are going to crash because what's going to take place is you'll have the stock market crash, and then somehow Biden or his administration will blame Bitcoin somehow. I mean, it won't have anything to do with Bitcoin, although that is somewhat of a bubble in and of itself. But the whole thing, like, people will revert back to what they know. They'll want dollars, and they'll want to get out of everything speculative. And you'll see the price of Bitcoin crash, but then you'll see stocks crashing, and that could be, the catalyst could be a hedge fund like Archegos, because the derivatives trades, we don't know how much debt and margin these hedge funds have in derivatives trades. We don't know how much debt. So if you're a hedge fund and you have billions in derivatives contracts, it's a contract, from what I understand, and correct me if I'm wrong, but it's a contract between the hedge fund and the bank. A private contract that's essentially, in many cases, unregulated by the SEC. Why? Because they're not purchasing the stock. So when Archegos, the hedge fund that went under, that immediately within that week cost $10 billion in losses, and they were a relatively small hedge fund, what happened was, and if you have insomnia, just replay this segment of the live stream. What happened was Viacom stock tanked 1 week. Why? Because they were introducing new shares of stock to the market. And who was doing this? Get this, the same banks that were funding Archegos, loaning them money on margin in the form of margin debt to buy risky trades. The same banks that were loaning money to the hedge fund to make risky derivatives trades that are unregulated by the SEC generally, because these are contracts that bet on the price fluctuation. They're not ownership. They don't own the stock. They just own a contract that bets on the stock price going up or down. So the hedge fund had so many bets on Viacom, its price moving up, that when the price tanked very quickly 1 week, because of the banks that were loaning the hedge fund money, helping Viacom introduce new stock to the market, which diluted the share price, according to investors, and then tanked, from what I understand, they got margin calls, like you would. You and the hedge fund that trades billions of dollars both get margin calls. And they say, well, you need to give 20, 30%, or else we'll take your entire stock position. And the hedge fund, went bankrupt because they couldn't answer all the margin calls, primarily just from one stock. One stock tanking. That's the economy that's the stock market we live in now. There's no reason for the market to be this high. Rod Hurd, thank you so very much again. Everybody, Ian, thank you so very much. Rod, thank you. The market is this high because of something called moral hazard. Moral hazard is what economist Ken Arrow. Okay. Warren Buffett talks about this a lot. But moral hazard the concept of moral hazard was a subject renewed by, beginning with economist Ken Arrow. Okay. Moral hazard is what takes place when you are incentivized to engage in risky behavior. So, if you look at the return from government bonds, let's say, and you look at the return or just the bond market, and you say, well, you know what? Interest rates are so low that if they go up just a little bit, the prices are going to drop. So I'm incentivized to just place my bets on the stock market. I mean, you know what? I might even place some risky derivative trades. You know why? Because the prices keep going up. So I'll make more money. And the prices keep going up because people say, well, why should I invest in bonds? I can invest in stocks because you have so much money being pumped into the market through stimulus and through the QE, the quantitative easing of government buying back debt, and that pumps liquidity and money into the market. Well, why don't I just go ahead and trade more? So you're inflating this balloon, okay? Inflating, and eventually it was Lehman Brothers and others in 2008. It could be Archegos, could be one of the first hedge funds that we see go bankrupt. But the catalyst could be other hedge funds that go bankrupt because whenever there's a serious drop downwards, there was a 971 point drop in the market one day and then it rebounded the next day. Well, what happens if there's a 971 point drop and then there's another 1,000 point drop the next day? Well, then you could look at the next day being a 3,000 or 4,000 point drop. because people the fluctuations in the market, they're too sensitive. They're over leveraged. These hedge funds are over leveraged. But the government, and there are a lot of articles on this in the Financial Times, we don't know in terms of risk management. All of these banks and government, like the SEC and FINRA, the Financial Industry Regulatory Authority, these regulators are clueless because the margin debt, and I know I'm putting people to sleep, and correct me if I'm wrong. If I'm saying anything that's not accurate, let me know. The margin debt's at an all-time high. It wasn't at an all-time high in March of 2020. So we knew that because Democrats prevented people from working and engaged in a self-induced madness, we know that last year we had a pretty good economy. We rebounded from the stock market because we had a good economy. We didn't have runaway inflation like we do now. And Democrats have convinced themselves that, well, inflation is transitory, which it's not for a lot of reasons now, and it's the mark of an economy that's heating up. The economy is not heating up. The economy is functioning after not being forced to completely shut down because of the experts that Democrats revere, and they revere them only because they, whatever. But the economy rebounded, and then the stock market said, "Oh, great, this is fantastic. GDP is at 6%. Well, it was revised downwards, but also is only at 6% or so because there was negative GDP last year. But we also have inflation, CPI, Producer Price Index, Baltic Dry Shipping Index, all of these at record highs, consumer confidence at a low not seen since 08, a labor shortage, and jobless claims increasing." How in the chat, how in the comment section, if you've lasted this long and you're watching, how do you have a labor shortage while at the same time jobless claims increasing? Unemployment's at over 5%, primarily because you have Democratic-run states at 7.7%, 7%, 6.7%. I read the Bureau of Labor Statistics early on. The economy, we're heading towards a collapse again. And when the stock market crashes, and let's say, God forbid, banks, God forbid, need bailouts, how are you going to bail them out? How are you going to bail out banks if they need bailing out? The hedge funds, if they need to get bailed out, they get bailed out just the way the GameStop hedge fund, what was it, Melvin something, I forgot, that hedge fund got bailed out by other hedge funds. How do you bail out banks when interest rates are already at zero and when the Federal Reserve has pumped in $1 out of every $5 into the economy? So then if banks go under or are at risk of going under, how do you bail them out? Because we don't know, the regulators think they know how much risk banks and hedge funds are taking, but they don't have an accurate number of the billions of dollars in debt because the derivatives contracts are not regulated by Dodd-Frank because guess what? They haven't implemented the Dodd-Frank laws 11 years after they were passed through Congress pertaining to derivatives. They haven't implemented all of them yet. So you have people wearing dresses that say tax the rich. They don't even talk about economic issues. Pamela, thank you. Pamela Brown, thanks for being you. I appreciate that, Pamela. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Pamela. Thank you so very, very much. Greatly appreciated. Thank you, Pamela. Rod, thank you again. Rod Hurd, I can't thank you enough. Rod, thank you. Ian, as always. Jean-Louis, Pamela Brown, so kind of you. Thank you so very, very much. I can't do these live streams without the super chat, and I appreciate your support. Pamela, everybody here, what happens if, God forbid, well, if there will be a stock market crash. It could be another Evergrande in China. It could be another. It could be a much larger Archegos hedge fund in this country. The catalyst, I don't know what the catalyst is going to be, but it's probably going to be linked to derivatives trades. The top 5 banks have greater exposure, and this is a fact, to derivatives than they did in '08. So you do the math on that. You tell me what's going to happen. How would the Federal Reserve save a bank that could go under in 2022? You already pumped in $1 out of $5. We already have inflation at, 5%? Some people say a lot higher. Interest rates are already at 0. So you already are at every type of economic stimulus or central bank stimulus. You've already gone down that road. So the stock market is, the housing market, the stock market is pumped up to extreme levels that don't reflect the reality of an economy that's barely functioning. And it's barely functioning because of a self-induced wound from Democrats and media that said, hey, we can tank Trump. We can get Trump out of office by saying, oh, yeah, can't open up now. The experts, and Sweden, by the way, their experts and scientists are a trillion times smarter. They didn't do what we did. But Democrats touching themselves in ecstasy, well, we can't open up now. We can't open up now. We can't open up now. I suggest that you open up, if you don't have a savings account, open one up. If you have a savings account, every week, starting next week, $10, $20, $30, $40, $50, $60 if you can save. Every week. If you can save $70 a week, it's $280 a month. If you could save $1,000 a month, do it. When the market crashes in January or February or March or April, if you could save up $2,000, $3,000, $4,000, $5,000, $6,000, $7,000, $10,000 in your savings, forget about investment. With mashed potato brains, who knows what's going to happen? I'm thinking of starting a nuclear annihilation channel in addition to my stock market channel. Okay, or nuclear confrontation, I should say. That's the next thing that he'll probably get us into. You have these people, they're like, oh, what happens if China invades Taiwan? Well, I've been talking about that, but they're like, a military engagement would be devastating. It's like, well, no, there wouldn't be a conventional military engagement. God. Why even talk about that? We would never, if a country has nuclear capabilities, we don't engage in conventional military. It would be a Cuban Missile Crisis situation. Pamela, thank you again, Pamela. Thank you. Hope you're having a great weekend. Thank you, Pamela. We wouldn't engage, but anyway, save every month, because I don't like to talk about this, but with mashed potato brains and media running the show, I don't know, the trajectory of your life. I keep saying focus on happiness, love, success, joy, laughter, prosperity, health. Get healthy. Do 40 plus straight push-ups. That is, there was a study done, if you could do 40 plus push-ups, that strengthens your heart, or it shows that you're far less likely of cardiovascular issues. You could do 40 straight. I do sets of 40 straight push-ups every night, and weights also. But the trajectory of your life should be upwards. The trajectory of our country, unfortunately, is we're descending into a slow decline into madness, which is only amusing to me in that when the market crashes, I want to see the tweet saying, "At least we don't have Trump," because that's what's going to happen. And because that's what's going to happen. At least we don't have Trump. And always when you look at politics, always remember that, like, you should always go ahead and expect the most absurd, completely irrational, absurd behavior from Democrats and media. If you can expect that, then you're prepared. You're prepared. Don't ever be shocked by anything that takes place in Biden's administration. Market crash, expect it. Expect nuclear confrontation, I'm expecting it. Anything. God forbid natural disasters, don't be shocked. We're already seeing that, and they're gonna it's climate change. It's like, well, literally nothing you would do right now will stop any of this. So why are you pontificating? They're pontificating because it's just yet another way they could find political utility in tragedy. But expect the unexpected for the next 3 years, okay? Don't be shocked by anything. That's all I'm telling you. And prepare. Whatever you need to do to keep healthy and safe and happy for the next 3 years, to prepare yourself for any unexpected, stock market crash, for example. In my humble opinion, have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 months of savings if you can. If God forbid there are layoffs because of Biden's fantastic economy crashing. But see, again, like, the socialists on the left, they're really wonderful people. They're so fantastic and moral, but they never talk about economics. I can pretty much assure you that there's not one person who calls himself or herself a socialist or communist in America today talking about the producer price index or inflation. They don't care. Or the consumer price index. They don't care. Or margin debt in the stock. They don't care. It's like the old iPhone. I don't care. But the Android does this. I don't care. Sorry. Their whole thing, ladies and gentlemen, is greatness. Greatness. Thank you. Debbie, hello. Their whole thing is media. They're driven by media. I don't know, who, does media drive the Democratic Party or do Democrats drive media? I don't know, but it's this, unholy symbiotic relationship where CNBC is great. I watch, lately I've been watching the financial analysis from Jim Cramer and others. It's so great. It's well, you know what? Evergrande seems to be a not a contagion, and inflation is transitory. And you know what? The two things that we were worried about with Jerome Powell, he's going to prolong and wait to taper next year. So let the good times roll. The stocks, you know what? Invest and buy the dips. You dip. And it's why would, just because Evergrande made a payment this week, how are you, why would you say that they're okay now? They were about to default on $300 billion in loans the other day, and they still are. So they might get nationalized outright very soon. Then you have the geniuses who are you know what? Now's not the time to invest in China. And, there's never going to be a moment where people don't invest in China. It's the largest economy, largest market in the world. So that's not even a possibility. Exactly. Tons of container ships. Yes. Exactly. It's like they don't care. They don't even, it's not even an issue to them. This is not a priority. None of this is a priority. If you said they're shipping, if you told AOC that their shipments, they're shipping, their ships waiting to port. Okay? A record number of cargo ships are stuck outside Los Angeles. If you said these cargo ships, 65 cargo ships are anchored right outside America's largest port in Long Beach. Okay? If you told AOC this, who knows what she would say. They don't, the left, they don't care. They don't care about any of this. But they'll be the first, you think Elizabeth Warren is talking about derivatives? Derivatives are likely going to cause the next collapse. The contract for differences, that type of derivative, the derivatives that cause the Archegos collapse are very likely going to cause the next stock market crash. Do you think Elizabeth Warren is talking about this? No. No. Do you think anyone is on the left? No. They're not. They are certainly not. They are certainly not talking about this. Dean Diefendorf, career Wall Street banker here. I'm impressed with your analysis. Thank you. And understanding your economy and market as a civilian. You're very smart. Thank you, Dean. Greatly appreciated. Thank you. As always, I appreciate your support and kind words as always, Dean. Thank you so very much. I am sure you know a lot more about everything we're talking about than I do. And I'm sure you probably think that things won't be, stable in the future, to say the least. But see, again, Dean, everybody here, thank you, Dean, very much. Do you think Mashed Potato Brains cares? He doesn't care about it at all. He doesn't care. Dean, do you think Mashed Potato cares? He doesn't care. They don't care. They don't care. He's going to have his microphone pulled at any moment, and that's fine. They're like, whatever. They're pulling microphones. It's like they're not even trying to pretend. They're just, the show must go on. I appreciate the kind words very much. Thank you. Thank you, Dean. Thank you so much. I appreciate that very much. Thank you. Mashed Potato doesn't care. Neither does Bumbling Blinken. Thank you, Tammy. Bumbling Blinken doesn't care. Dean, thank you again for the kind words. Greatly appreciated. Mashed Potato doesn't care. Bumbling Blinken. Jerome Powell also, like, at least when Greenspan spoke, he was like, how did Greenspan? He had a New York accent. I could do it if I could just hear him. He spoke, at least he was like this old sage. Maybe he wasn't right about everything or a lot of things, but he was this old sage. And you listen to him, like, wow, he sounds really like he's been around. He probably, yeah, he was around in 1929, so. But you hear, like, Jerome Powell speak, and he sounds like Bumbling Blinken. He does, doesn't he? Doesn't he sound like Bumbling Blinken? He sounds like Bumbling Blinken. They all sound like, very frightened. Like they're sitting next to the Hellraiser monster, or Hellraiser. Or like The Exorcist. The Exorcist is the most frightening movie, like, by far in my book. But he said something like, oh, yeah, no, inflation is 2% next year. We a little over 2%. Like, what? How is that possible? Dean, is this even possible? Did you hear that? That Powell said the Fed projects inflation at 2%, around 2. It's like it's at over 5% now. Why would it go down to 2% next year when we have all of these problems? Does that make any sense at all? And rent increased by 20%. How does this even work? Because they don't calculate inflation the way they calculated inflation in the 70s. How is inflation going to be at 2% next year when it's over 5% now, and you have 65 cargo ships waiting? How does that work? How does that work? And then, like, where's AOC or Elizabeth Warren talking about inflation? Where are they? Where are they? Ladies and gentlemen, let's go ahead. Let's go ahead really quickly and just take a look. So I just want to see what's CNN reporting on now. It's kind of hilarious. Well, definitely not Chris Cuomo. Oh my God, this is kind of cool, actually. Apocalyptic battle cars from Mad Max Fury Road are up for auction. Really? 13. Oh, it's the new one. 13 heavily modified vehicles used in the 2015 film. Okay. What about the original Mad Max cars? That would be interesting. Where are those? Yes. And then the best thing is Robert Reich. He's this economist that's supposed to stand up for the little guy. He never brings up any of the terrible things taking place. It's like him and Paul Krugman, they just, anything bad that happens in the economy, they find some way to blame Trump, some way to blame the rich, some way to blame anybody but Democrats. Oh, here we go. Jeff Bezos' Amazon salary is $82,000, but his wealth gains per minute are $149,000. It's like, well, I'm not a fan of like the Washington Post. He owns the Washington Post. There's a couple good journalists there, actually. The Washington Post is better than the New York Times, barely, but better. At least the Washington Post has like one or two very, very good journalists. But they're all propping up the Democratic Party. And Bezos owns the Washington Post. Why doesn't Robert Reich bring that up? I don't understand why. Well, I do understand why. He just vote blue no matter who. He's just going to vote blue no matter who. They're going to blame Trump. Like next year. Oh, this is fantastic. Like Robert Reich, the public desperately needs what the Democrats are proposing, and yet no one even knows what's in the $3.5 trillion package. Well, if the public needs it desperately, why doesn't anybody know? You have all of media, you have the House, the Senate, and the presidency. Maybe it's not a good package. It's a huge problem, especially as McConnell gives the GOP his messaging marching orders and they all obey. No, that's the Democrats. With McConnell... when I say Trump, I say how high. The Republicans in general are going to oppose a lot of things just on principle, but there's more diversity of thought in the GOP than there is in the Democratic Party. They're the ones who walk in lockstep always, except Manchin and Sinema. I will say that. Dean Diefendorf. Dean, thank you. Derivatives will be key. They should be banned. I agree. A put option bets on failure, just an un-American concept. J.P. Morgan Chase has a derivative exposure of $70 trillion. Yeah, that's right. Kiplinger has an article on that. The derivatives exposure of each of those banks, which is the size of the entire world's economy. I agree with you, Dean. I agree with you on that. It's going to be the derivatives that tank everything again. I agree with you on that. Great point. Warren Buffett called them the weapons of mass destruction, financial weapons of mass destruction. And where's Robert Reich or Paul Krugman or Elizabeth Warren talking about this or AOC? They're not talking about any of this. I agree with you on that. Absolutely. Dean, thank you. I agree with you on that. Yeah. Where are the regulators? Where are the regulators, Dean, on any of this? Where are the regulators on any of this? Great point, Dean Diefendorf. Thank you. So Goldman Sachs, this is a Kiplinger's article. How might Archegos $10 billion in losses affect your retirement? Goldman Sachs has 42 trillion total gross derivatives. Citibank 40 trillion. JP Morgan, you said 70. I agree with you. But Kiplinger says 46 trillion, but I think you're right. It's impossible to even know. They hide all of it anyway because of the contracts. There's no exchange. Bank of America 14 trillion, which should never happen. That's bad. Wells Fargo 8 trillion. That's what this Kiplinger's article says. But I agree with you, Dean. Probably 70 trillion. Probably more. Goldman Sachs probably has more than 42 trillion in total gross derivatives. This thing is like a terrible analogy, but it's like the Hindenburg. This is like, you never get Robert Reich talking about any of this. Thank you, Dean, again. Thank you so very much, and I agree with you. But you never get them talking about any of this. Never. They don't talk about any of this. It's like, okay, bring up Jeff Bezos again, but you keep reading the Washington Post. And I'm wondering how much money AOC spent on Amazon. Okay, everyone spends money on Amazon. Everybody. There's not a person that doesn't spend money on Amazon. I'm not judging AOC. I'm just saying. You keep talking about Amazon. You actually prevented billions and billions of dollars in tax revenue by protesting the headquarters in New York. It's unbelievable. Even Cuomo and Schumer, they're like, no. And it's like, you bet on margin on a derivative, knowing how volatile the market is, and you already had Archegos bankrupt from Viacom going down 1 week. So what do you think happens if there's back-to-back days of major selling? What's the catalyst? I don't know what the catalyst would be. It could be a hedge fund. The derivatives, for sure, will be part of the catalyst. But Dean, everybody here, it's like, what happens when interest rates are at zero and the stimulus checks end and you prolong tapering and the stock market crashes from derivatives exposure that we don't know about? So then how do you then save the economy? How does the central bank save the economy when they've already tried to save the economy in their own way? I mean, they already tried to save the economy in a manner that caused this moral hazard where people just say, hey, free money, let's go ahead and buy stocks on margin. This is the same thing. This guy, Robert Reich, we really, and he writes really a million times, need to get big money out of politics. 29,000 likes. He votes Democrat all the time. It is 2021, almost 2022. He's a lifelong liberal Democrat, worked for the Clinton administration. He wants to get money out of politics. Why didn't the Clintons do that? Why didn't President Obama do that in 8 years? They have the House, the Senate, the presidency. Why aren't they doing that now? Oh, that's right. He knows very well big money. It was Trump who got the smaller donations this time around, definitely not Biden. So, hedge funds, exactly. I agree with you. And it's like they're oblivious to it. They don't care. Robert Reich, they don't even care. They're talking about like these little platitudes. He has 29,000 likes for something that's kind of meaningless. Like, he might as well just say, yeah, you know what? We need to stop bad things from taking place. Yeah. Exactly. I agree with you 100%. I agree with you 100%. I mean, and when it happens, oh my God, they're going to be so blindsided. And eventually, I think people will finally realize, they'll say, well, why weren't you talking about this? At least they can watch the Stock Market Crash channel. Shameless plug. Shameless plug, H.A. Goodman's Stock Market Crash channel. Because I'm talking about it. I am going to pitch an article, too, to some really wonderful publications. Hopefully, I can get published on what I think is going to take place. Going to be pretty devastating, unfortunately. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so very much. Rod, I can't thank you enough. Everybody here, Dean, thank you. Thank you so very much, everybody. Eric and Luke, thank you so very much. Dean, Pamela, everybody here. Ian, Rod, thank you again. So kind of you. Ian, thank you. Everybody here, thanks so much. God bless you all. Have a beautiful, beautiful weekend. Always remember, focus on life, love, health, joy, laughter. Start painting, writing poetry, working out, doing 40 straight push-ups. Just the trajectory of your life should go up. Unfortunately, our country is going to be descending into madness, even more so than usual. I hope it doesn't happen, but I'm predicting a devastating stock market crash. Could be next March, could be next month. I don't know. But save your money. Go open up, or if you have a savings account, every month, every week, save as much as you can. Forget about investments. Just save as much as you can for a rainy day. I think a rainy day is coming. But remember, just drown out all the noise and focus on health and happiness and your loved ones. And tell people you love them. Because just, I think it's important to be prepared for chaotic times. And the best way is mentally and emotionally, and to focus on what really matters, happiness and health. God bless you all. Thank you so very much, everybody. Rod, thank you again. Ian, as always. Dean, thank you. And I agree with you. Pamela, everybody here. Eric and Luke, thank you so very much. Everybody, God bless you. I'll see you tomorrow, 6:30 p.m. 6:30 p.m. on this channel, Pacific. 6:30 p.m. Pacific on this channel. Thanks, everybody. Merlin, thank you. Thanks, everybody.